Thanks for joining me in this video. In this video, we will be discussing visitor visa and common reasons of applications being refused. The most common reasons, I will divide it into three categories, is travel history, financials, and ties to your home country. When you submit a visitor visa application, really the officers are looking for these three main documentation. So they're looking for ID documents, that's your passport data page, your birth certificate, marriage certificate, things like this. The second set of documentation pertains to why you're coming to Canada. That's who you're going to stay with, how long are you going to stay there, who's going to provide accommodations, where you're going to travel to while you're in Canada. So that's the second things that the officer looks for. And the third set of things that the officer looks for is proving that you're going to exit the country. These are ties to the home country, like properties, financial responsibilities, investments, bank accounts. Maybe you have reasons to go because you have a doctor's appointment or employment reasons, things like this. Now, when you submit the application, the officers look at travel history, like I stated. The reason why they look at that is they want to know if you're coming to Canada, have you traveled outside of Canada as well? Have you gone to the US? Have you gone to Europe? Have you gone to, other places of the world? How long did you stay for? How frequently do you travel? If you've never traveled before, then the officers do become a little bit concerned as to why you've never traveled and why is your first destination Canada. So for that reason, it's important that if you've never traveled before, that you have a significant reason of coming to Canada. So make sure when you include a reason to come to Canada, there's an actual event happening, then it increases your chances. Not to say that that's absolutely mandatory, but definitely it does look good to say, I've never traveled before because I've been busy with employment or whatever the reason may be, but I'm traveling to Canada because there's a wedding in place, for example, and your attendance is mandatory. The second set, as I stated, is financials. That's not only as to that you can support yourself while you're in Canada, but you have enough money to also exit the country. So your flight ticket should be two ways. You should have enough financial documents to support that you can stay in Canada for the validity of your request. So let's say if you're requesting a 6-month stay, then you should have enough financial capability to be able to do that. So usually I say it really depends, because a lot of clients ask, well, how much do I need? It depends on all your other documentation. It depends on how long you're staying in Canada. It depends on who you're staying with. I mean, obviously your financial capabilities increase or should increase if you're staying in a hotel versus if you're staying with friends and family. So I would say roughly 2,000 to 5,000 should be at least your bare minimum for a couple of weeks of request of entering Canada. And the third, as I stated, is your ties to your home country. This is documentation to prove that you're going to leave the country. It could be as small as a few dollars in your bank account to something like your employment documents, a doctor's appointment that you may have. You really have to prove that your need in Canada is needed, and second, that you have ample reasons to go back to. So I just wanted to wrap that up in regards to why applications usually get refused. And as I stated, common reasons are not having enough travel reasons, and then you all of a sudden want to come to Canada. Financials, you didn't prove that you can support your stay for your entry and obviously the exit of Canada. And the ties to home country. Now, just to state this as well, you don't have to have everything under the sun. So some clients don't have a lot of documents to prove their ties to the home country. They just have 1 or 2 documents. So it really depends on how many documents you have in these 3 categories I mentioned. So your financials, your travels, and your ties, to kind of look at it and say, okay, that should suffice in regards to what the officers are looking for. So if you have a lot of travels, then you can kind of have less ties to home country, for example, and vice versa. If you have a lot of ties to your home country, then the officers will be a little bit more forgiving when you don't have a lot of travel history. But if you have absolutely no travel history, you don't have ties to your home country, and your financials are bare minimum, well, then your chances of approval does decrease substantially. And so we really have to explain thoroughly to the officer why the case is what it is. Why don't you have a lot of travel history? Why don't you have a lot of financials? And why don't you have a lot of ties to your home country? And why we can still prove that you're going to exit the country and be a bona fide visitor. If you're looking for our assistance, please do give us a call. And remember, at Akrami & Associates, there's always a way. We'll be waiting for your call. Thanks, and until next time.